Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new segment of Radio Tuaz called Tuaz Talks, where we sit down and interview anyone who inspires us in any type of creative space. For those of you who are brand new to the podcast, our names are Will and Danielle. We go by Tuaz and DT, and we are a brother-sister DJ duo, and we are the co-hosts and co-producers of Radio Tuaz.
Today, our very first interview is with Steph Griffith, who is the creator of a fashion brand called AWEAR. AWEAR is dedicated to raising awareness for endangered species. Steph also happens to be married to one of our biggest inspirations as producers and DJs, Gryffin. So we are excited to chat with her about what it's like being married to a DJ and her experience so far with starting and owning a business. Hi, Steph. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So when we first started, Steph was like, hope you can't see like the little ears in the bottom corner. Gigi, she's also the mother of like the cutest Frenchie ever. And
she's so cute.
I was doing a little stalking on Instagram. Gigi and I almost share a birthday. So she's September 16th.
Yep.
I'm the 17th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was really exciting for me to find out because I love Frenchies.
Oh, I guess Gigi's a Virgo too then.
We're both Virgo girls.
I always thought she was a Libra.
Yeah, it's close. It's close.
But... You know who else is born in September? Dan.
When is his birthday?
September 29th. He's a Libra.
Oh, so he's a Libra. For sure he's a Libra.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And my best childhood friend from growing up is a Libra. So I think I just really like Libras.
We do. I mean, our older sister is a Libra, and she's very integral to us as a unit. Yeah. We're all like back to back to back. I'm September, my sister's October, and my brother's November. So Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. So I wanted to hop into how you and Dan met.
So we met in the year 2012. So it has been almost 10 years that I've known him.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually met. I was living in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. He was living in Chicago. We met through mutual friends in April. I was just finishing up my master's. And I met him one night. We all hung out as a group. He was with another guy who was kind of hitting on me a little bit, and I was not interested in him, but it was Dan's childhood friend, I guess. At the end of the night, I gave Dan my phone number, and I didn't know if I'd ever see him again because he was going off somewhere else after Charleston or whatever. And we became Facebook friends. So I never heard anything from him. I never expected to see him again for the rest of my life. Flash forward a couple months, I'm in Chicago training for my first job, and he's living in Chicago. We literally run into each other at a restaurant. It was like my second day in Chicago, and he was like, wow, like I had no idea you were here. He seemed so excited that I was in Chicago, and I was really confused because he never called me and I never heard anything from him. So he's like, I'd love to show you the city. Like call me, I will take you out to dinner, all this stuff. So we just started dating after that.
Wow, that is like...
That's like destiny.
It's destiny. It's just like fate completely stepping in. Did you ever call him out for not reaching out to you?
Honestly, I feel like that piqued my interest a little more because I had never heard from him. Right. And I, of course, called him out on it because I call him out on everything. And he was like, I don't know. I was just like, I don't know, like, blah, blah, blah. So... But yeah, we started dating pretty much immediately after that, and we've been together ever since.
So you were there, I guess, like was that the beginning of his career, or?
Yeah, so in 2012, he was doing a different music project. I actually didn't even know he was musically inclined when I first met him. He played the piano for me. I think it was like after our second date. And I was totally blown away. So I was like, oh, you're like doing this kind of DJ mashup stuff, which to me, I didn't really know much about it at the time, and it didn't seem like it required that much skill.
Right.
And he played the piano and the guitar, and I was completely blown away. So when I saw that, I was just like, you've got to like let people know you can do this, right? So long story short, we moved to New York City in 2015, and that's actually where like the birth of the Gryffin project started in New York. So I've been there from before Gryffin. And back when he was like doing a different music project, we had both been out of college at that point for about 2 years. Yeah, I mean,
That's
I've been
so
there for a
awesome.
while.
Amazing.
It's
Actually,
been really cool to see.
It's definitely, and it's funny that you mentioned New York because that was the first place that I saw Gryffin live. It was at Governor's Ball 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember that was the first time I saw him. We were very front row, and it was such an experience, like being able to see like his complete like live set with like the piano and like the guitars and just all the vocalists that came on stage. It was just a really cool experience, and it was very inspiring.
He's so talented. And 2017 was still really early on in terms of putting the live show together. So that was a huge challenge to mix like the electronic instruments and all those sounds with the live instruments. It was like really tough because not a lot of people at the time had been doing anything like that. You know, there was like Udeza, right? That does the electronic sounds with the live mixes of the instruments and stuff, but it was really challenging. So you saw him like super early on in the live show, which is really cool.
It was I had no words. That was like one of the first times I've seen a live set where I was like, one, I don't even know how you did this, and two, I'm so grateful that I got to experience this live, and it was just I'll never forget that.
Yeah, he's so talented. He's been playing the piano I think since he was like 5 or 6, maybe 6 or 7. And classically trained pianist. And I mean, it really comes out in his production and then his like live performance too. I mean, the guy can like hear a commercial and instantly play the jingle from the commercial. And he's just like, he's so talented. I don't know if you know this, but he studied electrical engineering at USC. And I guess there's a pretty strong correlation actually between engineering and music. I could brag about him all day, guys.
I love that. I'm actually so jealous that you went to Governor's Ball. I saw him at Snow Globe in 2015.
Okay, that was his first show ever as Gryffin.
Really? I had no idea. And I think I had seen him like a couple of times after that. And most recently, we went to his show in Orange County at Time.
Yeah.
But
like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm like pretty positive that's where we got exposed to COVID, but for another time we can discuss.
But yeah, I had no idea like how big of an influence he would be at the time when I saw him at Snow Globe. I was like, oh, like I wonder who this person is. And so we ended up randomly at, I don't remember what stage he was playing at, but we were like, oh, this guy's super cool. Like, let's look him up. And then fast forward ended up being like one of our favorites. So.
I think he had somebody pretty decently big playing after him. So I remember there was like a crowd gathering halfway through his set. So he got some good exposure at that show. So that was a good one. We like brought in my family, his family, all of our friends. I mean, we were so excited. It was like his first show as Gryffin. So.
Yeah. And it's such a cool venue too.
Oh yeah. Well, it was freezing that night, I remember.
Yeah. It was very, very
cool. And it's really cool. I mean, Snow Globe is an amazing festival. I do love Snow Globe. I mean, it's Lake Tahoe. So.
Yeah. Big Tahoe people here.
Apparently they canceled the festival. Like they're not doing it anymore.
Stop.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
So I saw something on some sort of like blog or something regarding it, and they said like they're not doing Snow Globe anymore. So
man, that's really sad. I hope it has. Is it like from COVID and stuff? I mean, I just know the music industry has been pummeled.
Sure.
I'm not too sure what the reasoning was.
So segue back, I know that you were there from the very beginning with Dan before he was Gryffin. There's obviously a really negative stigma that goes with dating like any musician, we feel like, but especially with DJs. So I wanted to get your input as far as what do you think your favorite thing about Dan is that proves this theory wrong?
Gosh, that's like, I think that you need to take it from step one, which is it a DJ or is it like a human being, right? Because Dan to me is my husband. He's not a DJ. I knew Dan before he was Gryffin. I think you have to ask yourself, do you want to date somebody in the music scene in general because you want kind of like, I don't know, the theme that follows it and the attention? Or do you want to date somebody because it's that person you really get along with?
Yeah.
Right.
Dan and I think are probably unique, honestly, in the music space, just because like he is a super normal guy. He is not in music for the fame, for the attention, for social media followers. Like he actually doesn't care anything about that. He's just strictly in it for music. So that right off the bat is, I guess, a more like dateable person. I mean, you just have more character, I think, if you're in an industry because you like the industry as opposed to all the secondary stuff that can come with it.
Right. And you're like really passionate about what you do.
That's all he cares about. He is obsessed with music. And I mean, it comes out, right? Like,
Absolutely. You can tell with his production.
Yep. And then, you know, I'm sure you guys run into it, the DJ stuff. There's some DJs out there that just, you know, really like to go in front of a crowd, get the attention. You know, the ladies are behind the booth and all of that, and they just like eat it up and they love it. And then the music is kind of secondary. Like Dan is the opposite of that. So the stigma, I mean, I get it, right? It's like, you know, I meet people at the shows all the time, like fans, and his fans are awesome, by the way. And they're just like, oh, like, we're so curious about you. Like, we didn't know he was married or any of this, right? And yeah, it is like, you would be curious. Here's this guy that's so good at music on stage, has all his followers. And then like, here's his wife who is not famous whatsoever. And we're just like normal people. And I think that his fans really relate to that. But it is different. Like we're just, you know, we make dinner at night together. Like we're just like normal people. And, you know, of course we travel around the world for shows and stuff, but like we've really created like a family oriented team. And I get the stigma, but it doesn't fit Dan and I.
That's awesome.
That's
and
good,
you
honestly.
can definitely tell that it doesn't fit at all.
I've had people ask me like, oh gosh, do you worry about girls and all of that and stuff? And like, again, he's just not even in it for that. He doesn't care. Like we are each other's partners, right? And I talk to him every hour of every day, and I've been doing that for almost 10 years. So like, and his tour manager, his managers, everybody that's in the band, all the production people, they all love Dan and I. And like, if Dan ever did anything to like upset his team or something behind my back, which I would never ever think that would happen, they would tell me. I mean, it's just like we're family, a tight knit family.
Right.
So yeah, if you want to date a DJ, you got to look at why are they a DJ? Do they want the attention or do they like music? I guess that's kind of your first thing you got to look at. I met him before he was a DJ. So
yeah, I think like just like for my case, I guess I've had a lot of experiences with dating different people and like I'm not trying to like, you know, like pity me, whatever, but like there's situations where like obviously like our relationship is affected by what I'm trying to do as, you know, a producer and a DJ, you know. There's a lot of time where I don't get to spend time with the people that I was dating, and you know, that's a lot of the reason why like things didn't work out was because of like their like assumptions on what like a DJ is and like what they do and like what their aspirations are, and versus like what I want to do like as just Will, you know, like there's a lot of things there's a lot of situations I feel like could have been prevented had like those like negative stigmas and stereotypes like if they weren't around. Like I don't, you know.
I completely hear you. So I keep like talking about the team that we've created. We have a new videographer, and I think his girlfriend was just very insecure in the beginning. Like, you're going out on tour and all these shows, and like we laugh about it because it's actually happened a few times where the significant other is very concerned. And then we say, get her on a flight and have her come to a show and see what it's about, right? And they come to a few shows and they're just like completely at ease because they see Dan before a show, you know, stressing about like how he wants to do good. He does not drink alcohol. There is no drugs. Like, he is just all about the music. And so when they see that, and then afterwards, you know, we'll be happy the show's done. We'll have a few beers or whatever. But they see it and they see how the team that we have together is just like very family oriented and a lot of values. And it's just not typical from what you think the music industry is, which again, it is a lot like that. they feel more at ease. But we've run into that with quite a few of the significant others. So, and then I always talk to them and make them feel better too. So
I do feel like with situations like that, and I mean with any relationship, I think that just like so long as you have a very strong foundation from there as a like a unit together, you really shouldn't ever have anything to worry about as far as trust goes in those types of situations.
yeah.
But I think there is like an interesting like heightened level when it comes to, I'm sure, touring and that kind of exposure to that kind of scene. So I would imagine that that would get a little bit complicated. Do you feel like there have been any obstacles that you've faced while dating or like being married to Dan as a DJ?
Yeah, so I mean, we face like the typical obstacles that any married couple faces, right? And then it is a little bit accentuated with the fact that he's a touring DJ. I mean, I think one of the tougher things, Will, you kind of mentioned this, is just like the time, right? He doesn't have the time to always be around. It works for us though, because I'm actually a pretty independent person. I think that maybe with some other personalities, it would not work well. It is tough though. Like, you know, I'm Gigi's mom and he's Gigi's dad, but like Gigi's pretty much my responsibility because he's traveling, you know, he's like in and out. And also, I mean, COVID was a horrible experience, but it was actually really nice to be with each other for a year straight and like no travel. And I mean, yeah, we had a whole year together, which we had never had anything like that before. But yeah, I forgot your question. What was your question?
Like just any obstacles that you might have faced while dating or being married. Yeah.
The travel's a challenge. The time is a challenge. I mean, sometimes the challenge is like just getting his mind off music to talk about like we have to renovate our house. And it's like, Dan, can you like get your head out of music for a second? Because we got to talk about like these really important things we need to pick out for the house. The pressure too. He's under a lot of pressure. He puts it on himself, right? But that's challenging. Like I feel like in some relationships that aren't in a music industry, there might not be as much pressure perhaps. And so I kind of have to like, you know, be a reinforcement and reminder of you are so talented, just keep at it. It's gonna be fine. And so yeah, pressure, travel, those are pretty tough.
Yeah, and I would imagine that like as a partner you would want to be able to like alleviate that pressure, but it's like what is in our control that we would be able to help out with. And
I know.
Man, that's rough. We had talked about this, Steph. Walk us through the bingo story.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, great because hilarious. The pressure comes into play here. So because he's trying to wrap up his album and he's had shows come back, which is great, right? But it's taking time away from him that he wanted to finish these songs for the album. And so he's under a lot of pressure. And I'm always trying to find ways to just like get him out of the house and just doing something because I think it really helps like refresh him. Okay, so we have a place out in La Quinta, California, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's outside of Palm Springs. Our neighborhood, we are like by far the youngest people in our neighborhood. We are really good friends with our next door neighbors. They are amazing people, and I think they're probably in their like mid 50s. And they are also the youngest people in the neighborhood. So we've really bonded with them. They love Dan and I, they love Gigi. We go golfing with them. Anyways, they invited us to go to bingo and so another neighbor couple down the street. And normally I'd say no, but Dan was like super stressed this day. And I was like, honestly, it's just gonna be good. Like, let's just go see what it's about, right? You can like win things. It's a great way to pass the time. And so I somehow convinced him to go because I was like, you need to get out of the house. Let's just go play bingo. I was going to be interesting. And we show up and I mean, my God, the average age is 85. Like,
love it.
And so he's like side eyeing me. And thankfully we're at a table with our neighbors and then another couple who's like around their age. And we're at the fun table. I mean, we are like their grandchildren. And And so he is just like mean mugging me while we're playing bingo. And he's like, okay, I gotta go. I'm like, we have like 7 more bingo games we gotta play. And then Dave, our neighbor, he's like, yo, you need to make sure you're like filling out your card because Dan kept saying if he won bingo, he wasn't going to go up there. So we were like auditing his card while he was sitting there like, if you win, you got to go up and get this gift. Anyways, it was a really hysterical experience. Don't know if we'll ever go back to bingo, but
That was pretty funny. His expression on his face when you felt
that one scene was so random. So I think it was like 8 sets of bingo cards that we were playing, and we had just finished the 7th, and then the person played the baseball 7th inning game. I mean, all of these people stood up and was like dancing, and it was just like the weirdest thing. Dan was already feeling so weird, and I don't know, it was so funny. I had to get my phone out and get his expression because it was
So
priceless.
funny. And how funny that they play a 7th inning stretch.
It was so ridiculous.
We know that you've been along for his whole journey and process of like songwriting and everything. Do you have a favorite Gryffin song? Does it change or?
Oh man. So one song that's always going to stay so true to my heart is Heading Home, just because it was like the first original song he came out with.
Right.
That was really hard to get out. It's really hard because back before he was releasing originals, he was doing remixes. And he got some attention from the Desire remix, a few other ones before that. And getting original music out there when you're not a singer also, it's challenging.
Oh, yeah.
So gosh, I think he had worked on that song. I came home from work one day in New York and he showed me it and I was so excited. And then literally, I think it was like a year and 3 months later, the song finally came out. Like, it was just a battle because it's hard to convince artists to sing on tracks that they don't know who the producer is. And
right.
Joseph Salvat is an amazingly nice guy, but he didn't really know who Gryffin was. You can't blame him, right?
Right. So
there's a lot of negotiating. It was also right when we were trying to figure out like our management team and the label stuff. And so it was just like a lot. And so the fact that song came out, just like, that was the moment where it was like, okay, he's a legit artist. He has an original song out. Let's go. So that one's always like near and dear to my heart just because of the memories and the trials and tribulations of getting it out. I also just love Nobody Compares to You. That's just like, it's a great one. I love that song.
I think that one's my favorite.
Man, I wish that song went to the radio because I feel like you could have done something there. I do love that song. And I actually really, really, really love New Blood, the song he just came out with.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I also have a more like indie leaning ear. So songs like New Blood and Heading Home and that, like, I think I just naturally gravitate to them more. But yeah, so those are kind of, and then he has some other songs coming up that I think you guys will like them.
Yes, we're excited. We're very excited.
Definitely excited about the new stuff. So how many of the songs are about you, if any?
Oh gosh. So it's funny. The songwriting a lot of times is like him and another person. So they don't start off the bat like things about their girlfriend
right.
or anything, right? It just kind of like comes together. I do think he gravitates towards more lyrical content that is like more uplifting, emotional, speaks about like relationships and things that matter because that's who Dan is at the core. Like he's just somebody that like cares about things and he's not superficial at all. So I think he just, I don't even know if he notices it, but he just gravitates towards those kind of lyrics that make you feel something.
Right.
So in a way, probably all of the songs are a little bit about me, but I'm just kidding. I don't know if any of them actually are. Gigi, on the other hand, they actually are all about her.
I love it. So we kind of talked a little bit about your family unit that you have with your team and everything. So what does like tour and like festival life look like for you? Like, are you there for most of it, or like how involved are you during that whole process?
You know, that is another thing that I think makes our relationship work really well with the music industry in general, is just because I am super, super involved. So we are partners. I like know what's going on. I can help him with his career, which I love doing that. Um, so when it comes, so he did his first bus tour, Castle in the Sky, and I think it was it was either 2017 or 2018, and I was not on that bus tour. It was all guys and one girl, Juliana, our photographer, poor thing, survived that somehow. And so, but I was really actively involved in it because I do all the business side of Gryffin. So it's like just managing the finances and making sure that it's a sustainable project. So I wasn't a part of that bus tour on the bus, but in 2019, I did both bus tours, and that was my first time on a bus tour. That was an interesting change in my pace of life. It's really hectic, and you're living on a bus with, that's why we're a family unit, because you're living on a bus in enclosed space for over a month, sometimes 2 months, sometimes three, with all these people, and you become best friends. So I did both bus tours in 2019, and then his one-off shows. So I'll go to like the bigger festivals. I've been going to Vegas kind of frequently, just because we're really putting in a lot of work in Vegas in his residency, and we love everybody in Vegas, and we're just trying to make it like the best show and experience possible. So I've been going to Vegas a bit, and I mean, some of the other shows that are kind of like smaller shows, I won't really go to them. It just depends, honestly.
Yeah. What like works for like you at the time, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
for sure. Like I have other things going on in my life too. And then especially launching AWEAR, it's like my time is getting more and more stretched, to do the Gryffin stuff. But, I don't know. Yeah, I think a future bus tour will probably still go. He loves having Gigi and I there because we're just kind of like a rock for him. And these bus tours are stressful.
Yeah.
And we also do the meet and greets, which are a lot of fun. So like people will line up for the meet and greet, and we'll have Gigi like walk down and say hi to everybody. And so it's just like a really fun experience. And I'll probably go on future ones. It just depends, honestly, what's going on in our life too.
With the meet and greets, or I guess like in any sense ever, like have you ever had like any weird or like awkward fan encounters?
Honestly, no. That's what's so awesome, because I just feel like these fans can kind of sense who Dan is, right? So anyone that might be like, I don't know, just maybe a little superficial or something, I just think they don't like gravitate towards somebody like Dan. His fans are amazing. Like they are seriously so awesome. I haven't had any weird encounters. It always makes him laugh when they buy tickets to the meet and greet and they're like, we're here to see Gigi. And he's like, yes, good, because she's the best thing about this project. And so it's just like, yeah, I mean, his fan club is just like amazing. They're such good people. They love his music. They love him. It's just been like a really positive experience so far. I also don't know if he's like, big enough to have like kind of the crazy, I guess, people come around. So maybe in the future there would be some weird encounters, but I haven't had any yet.
I'm thankful that nobody's ever been like mean to you, because I feel like sometimes people can get crazy.
I've definitely had some like snooty comments, and they've mostly happened at the clubs.
Okay.
Because I feel like at the clubs, people like usually have more substances in their system. And it seems like the sometimes the girls in the clubs are just a little more like, I want to be behind the booth, and that mentality. And it's like, I always am backing off and like, please have fun. Like I've seen this. But I've had some snooty comments for sure. But again, like to me, it doesn't get to me. Like I literally laugh, and like I said, I'm an independent person. Like it just like doesn't get to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's definitely a testament to the type of relationship that you and Dan have. Do you think that you would be able to give any type of advice to somebody who is currently dating a DJ?
Yeah. So look at why they're in music. That is like the first thing you need to ask yourself. Why are they there? Do they absolutely live and breathe and love music? Great. Continue the relationship. Are they there because they're like constantly posting on social media and wanting all this attention? And are they like going off and talking to groups of girls and ignoring you for long periods of times? Like there's red flags. You got to read them.
Definitely.
But advice also is once you figure out kind of their character, right? You go on from that and you ask yourself, do I want to deal with the instability? So, right, instability is like the on and off travel. It's hard to depend on somebody when they have a crazy schedule. Are you willing to deal with the attention that that person gets constantly? Like if you're a jealous type person, dating a DJ is not for you because you're not going to have any attention on you. If you truly love that person and you want the best for them, you are going to be so excited that they're in like the PR tents at festivals and, you know, getting like podcast interviews and any kind of coverage. You're like, I'm so excited for you. Like, let's dress you in something cool. If you're like, oh, like I want to be in that interview too, then like dating a DJ is not for you. Go be like, go get your attention somehow. You just have to be really supportive. So the advice is figure out their character and realize what you're signing up for. At the same time, it's a really fun lifestyle if it's for you.
Definitely makes a lot of sense. And I think that like when you touch on the fact that like so important to understand why somebody is doing something and if their intentions are pure, it's so much easier to show your support for that and like show your support 100%. For like them as a person. And so from, I guess, your perspective, what do you think is the most important thing for somebody to know who wants to get into the industry and wants to become a DJ?
Wants to become a DJ? Okay, again, I've been in this industry now I started liking dance music in 2010, actually, which was like, let's actually say I started liking dance music in like 2008, 2009, more when there wasn't like the DJ yet, right? It was like super kind of undergroundish, and I really liked like the indie electronic sounds. So back then, it was a lot easier to become a DJ. Nowadays, even someone at Dan's level, it is very challenging because the appetite for dance music, I feel like, has diminished. What do you guys think, actually? Do you kind of see that, or?
I feel like there's definitely like a something evolving in the industry with dance music, electronic music, what have you, and the way that it's being marketed. I think that's kind of something that's changing it, and like I think the culture has shifted. I could relate. Back in 2008, 2009, that's when I kind of started to get into electronic music, DJing, and even producing. Like definitely had like my interest in that.
The barrier to entry per se back then was way easier than it is now. If you want to be a DJ now, you just have to be super relevant. The kids love the like short and sweet kind of TikTok songs, right? With like unique sounds. So you just got to be kind of more on trend and forward thinking if you're trying to be a DJ in today's age. I also think it really helps if you have a talent, whether it's playing an instrument or you producing the music and like live streaming how you produce music. So you're proving to your fans and your audience, like, I have talent. To me, if you can like do those two things and you stick at it and you don't get down on yourself, I think you can do it. You just got to try, and you gotta know how to try to succeed.
Definitely. I'm assuming consistency plays like a huge part in it too. I guess feeling a little bit like low or feel like you're not really where you want to be at whatever rigid timeline that you give yourself. So long as you keep pushing, stay determined, stay motivated, and remain as like consistent with yourself and like how you want to share your music with everybody. I feel like that also could.
Yeah, like So basically, you can look at it as the more content you put out there, the more chance you have to succeed. So
Right.
if you're so self-conscious of what you're putting out there, you're just inhibiting yourself, and you won't be able to be the DJ you want to be, right? But if you just continue to put the content out, look at the feedback from your content, like what people are liking, what they're saying, and then also stay true to your sound, which that's a challenge, right? Maybe your sound isn't something people are liking initially, but if you stay true to what you're trying to do and you keep putting the content out, I think eventually it gets discovered.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, music's really tough, and being a DJ is really tough because there's a lot of DJs out there. So
a lot of competition.
Yeah. And I think like especially during the pandemic, it's given a lot of people the time to be able to work on things on their own, learn, really hone in on a specific type of craft in a way that's been really beneficial for some people who are wanting to become a DJ. But how has the pandemic affected you personally, being that the music industry was like really largely affected?
holy smokes, there's pros and cons. So
Yeah.
the cons are obviously live music stopped. That was so challenging, and it was really scary.
Yeah.
And we saw all of our friends that are near and dear to our heart, not having work, and it was horrific in that regard. The plus side, the pro, is Dan had the time to work on new music. Very hard to find when you're touring and doing shows. So from the pandemic, I mean, he's been working on some amazing tracks, and that's kind of the pro. So the COVID and the pandemic was like really scary, but I think some good things will come out of it.
Yeah. And we saw that you both did you both have COVID?
Yes.
Ugh. And you, how are you feeling now, and how was it going through all of that?
It was the strangest thing. I guess I was in this mindset where if you're vaccinated, you can't get sick. I don't know why I thought that. I just thought that. And Dan was the same. So, oh my gosh, it was like a Friday, and I am sneezing and sneezing and sneezing, and I'm sick. I'm like, I have the flu. What is going on? It wasn't like the COVID symptoms where it's coughing and stuff. It was like full blown flu symptoms, runny nose, all of it. And so I was like, I'm just gonna take a COVID test because I'm like weirdly sick, and it was positive. And I was so shocked because we're vaccinated.
Right.
And then Dan was like petrified of getting it, and he had shows coming up. So he's like, I'm gonna leave. I gotta go back to LA. We can't be in the same house. I'm like, yeah. go to LA. Lo and behold, 3 days later, he tests positive too. So weird. He never gets sick. He is like the strongest immune system, and he was really down from it. Like, it whooped our butts.
Yeah.
And it was just so strange because we're both vaccinated. We got vaccinated on the same day, like right after each other both times. And so we always joke like that we didn't actually get vaccinated, that it was like, I don't know, salt water or something that we got. But I'm sure it kept us out of the hospital and all of that. That was really, really interesting. I'm fully recovered. The only thing that's a little bit lingering is my sense of smell is still not like totally there. And then Dan still, he's like 100% better, except for his taste and his smell is still not there. It's the weirdest thing. We're vaccinated.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have that same mindset too, because we're vaccinated as well, and completely was just like, you can't touch me. Like, I just like was like, no, I'm not getting that. But now I'm like,
Where?
Honestly, it might have been.
Oh man, gotta love Orange County. Towards the beginning of the pandemic, though, you were making Gryffin merchandise masks, right? So how involved are you in Gryffin merch as a whole?
Very. So originally in the project, so I come from a business background, a finance and business background. When we moved out to LA, I quit my job and I just started doing all the business for Gryffin, which segued into some merchandise because we were really lacking in that area. And that's a pretty strong revenue stream for an artist if
Right.
you can have good merchandise. So we had some merch companies we worked with, but there was always like severe downfalls with them. And so I was like, all right, give me a shot. I've always been interested in merchandise, fashion, clothing, apparel. Like when I was young and I'd babysit, I'd spend all of my money immediately at Abercrombie and Fitch, like just always have been obsessed. So I taught myself how to design. Like I took some classes to work with Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and taught myself how to design. And then I really was like drawn to it just because I feel like I really understand the fan base too and maybe what they want out of merchandise. So I came up with some ideas. My first design was a feel good t-shirt. And I remember it was like right before they went off for the Castle in the Sky tour. I had set up all the merch that we had made, and my design was the feel good tee. And our tour manager at the time was like, no one's gonna buy that. Everyone's gonna buy the band tee. And I was like all offended. And then lo and behold, it was the best selling merch item. So that kind of gave me the confidence to continue doing the merch designs. And then that kind of fed into teaching myself how to sew, just to understand like how clothing came together and pattern making and all of that. And then when the pandemic hit, again, we're very stressed out at home. It was a scary time. And I was so used to being constantly busy, and all of a sudden, both of us just stopped. I felt like I had to do something. And so I saw like I think we forget at the beginning of the pandemic, nobody had masks.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day because I remember like going out to the grocery stores where there would be a line out front and it would like, we would have to keep our distance. But then I remember not wearing masks. And then I remember it flipping like within a couple days. And they're like, you have to wear a mask. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, and this was also back then when like nowadays, if you go to a grocery store or something, they'll have like masks there, right? Like you can have a mask anywhere you go, but back at the beginning of the pandemic, it was really hard to find masks. And so I had like a bunch of leftover fabric from AWEAR actually, because I was already working on that project, and I wasn't going to use this fabric. So I was like, I'm gonna make some masks. I'm just gonna embroider the Gryffin logo on them and make them, and they sold like crazy because nobody had masks. And so, and it was also a way to like keep my mind off of kind of all of the like devastating things that were happening around us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had my own little factory in my office with like two sewing. Dan would come in and be like, what are you doing? Like it would be a complete mess. And it was kind of fun. Like he was working on music, I was working on masks.
So you already by that time had started working on AWEAR?
Yeah. I had been working on AWEAR. So it has been an idea that's been near and dear to my heart for many years. I actually started working on it about 4 years ago. It took me a long time to get it off the ground, mostly because I'm so busy with Gryffin stuff.
Yeah.
But also it's really hard to like get something like that out. And so, yeah, it took me a long time and it's finally out, and I'm very happy about it.
Yep. We, if you're listening, you aren't able to see us, but we both are wearing our shirts. We
very cute.
Got them in the mail, and I had high expectations, obviously, but they've exceeded my expectations with like the quality and the fit and everything, and we love them. We're so excited.
The fabric is very soft.
It is so
that was like
soft.
The one thing I remembered once I put it on.
Yeah.
And the weight of the fabric, it really makes it feel like it can last in your closet forever. It's very well made. So I'm very, very proud of it, and very comfortable, very soft.
So with starting AWEAR, can you kind of like explain to anybody who doesn't know like what your mission behind it is and what kind of like sparked this initiative for you?
Yeah. So I have always really loved animals. And my first word was our dog's name. It was not mom or dad. And I just think that I was like just born this way. I feel like I have a kind of emotional connection to them. And I've always wanted to help them out because they need it. I mean, we are like harming the animals out there. I have traveled the world with Gryffin and the project, and I saw firsthand just simple ways that we as human beings can like help out these animals, which kind of like triggered and inspired me to do a clothing line because I mean, every single day you have to wear clothes. And to me, it was the perfect way to just have a conversation starter about raising awareness. And so I don't know if you noticed on your shirts, the back has really big tags that has information. And so I'm kind of like taking these typical things that fashion and clothing use, and I'm just putting a unique spin on it to help animals out and awareness. And like one of the simplest things you can do is if you're traveling to Asia where there's Asian elephants is to not ever ride an elephant. And some people don't know this. And if they knew about the trekking industry and how much harm it causes them to ride them, they would have never in a million years put their money towards that. But it's just an awareness factor, right?
Exactly.
And so like I saw that when we were in Indonesia and when we were in Thailand, and I was just like, this is simple. If people just know to never ride an elephant, there's other better ways to interact with an elephant, they would do it. So that was kind of my inspiration for it. And I really hope something can come out of AWEAR and it can become like a sustainable company because I have really exciting plans for it. I want to introduce a species every year and have a print for them. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my story on how it was like birthed. I mean, I've gone abroad and volunteered many times with different species. I've went and met with foundations that are doing incredible work and saving a lot of these species from becoming extinct. And it's just something I'm passionate about.
Yeah. And that definitely resonates with the product that you have produced. And I think that that's where you and Dan are very similar, and that like what you give and what you share to the world really resonates with like the passion that is behind it. And it's just very evident in like what you create, both of you create, and you can just tell that your intentions are completely there, and it's very visible to whatever consumer on either end.
Good. That was my point.
I love that.
I can see the sun is like setting, and look how it's affecting me.
A little bit, huh?
A little brighter.
That's kind of crazy looking.
You still look great. Nothing to worry about.
I'm like really like flashy or something.
You're glowing. But yeah, I was gonna actually bring up the tags on the back of the shirts. That's something that's like super unique and generally overlooked, but it's like, you know, big enough to catch your attention, and a quick read of like simple do's and do nots of certain species. I think that's awesome that you were able to incorporate that. And I hadn't known about the riding the elephant things until like maybe a couple years ago, but before it's like, oh, like people love these animals, and so they want to be able to do that. But I do think it bringing awareness to those types of travel things when people aren't, you know, they're in a new environment, it's like what they see, so they're thinking that's like just something that you do. But I think that you bringing awareness to the fact that it's actually really harmful is super important. So I love that you were able to incorporate that in your design. So when you're traveling, is that generally when you get the most inspiration for the designs that you're kind of like wanting to curate?
Yeah, it actually definitely seems like that. I guess when you're traveling, it gives you the opportunity to interact with like different things from people and cultures and animals and even like the plant species that are around. And so it is pretty inspirational, actually.
Yeah.
Because I did think of it when I was abroad, and then I went to South Africa and volunteered, and that's where I was inspired by the rhinos too.
Yeah. So right now you have the two collections, the rhino collection and the elephant collection. I know you mentioned that you want to be able to introduce a new species with every line or every year, was it?
The idea is to have a new, I guess, collection and species. So each collection will be representative of a species.
Got it.
I'd like to do one a year, but it would be great if I could do two. I just have to see where this thing is going to go.
Right.
And for instance, like imagine like a colorful parrot, right? and there are endangered colorful birds out there. I could take one of those and make an incredible colorful print with it, and then use it as the contrast pieces on the clothes, the styles that I already have designed, and then that's the collection. And then I will personally vet the foundation where the money goes towards, so we know that it's going towards a good cause.
Right.
And that's kind of my goal for it, is to just constantly have, because there is an endless number of species that need our help. Introduce them, tell the public what's harming them, how to help, volunteer with them, and then have a collection that represents aesthetically what they look like for a talking point when you're wearing the clothes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's awesome. I think that with your designs, it can get really easy to mess up something when it comes to animal print, I think, but you've done it very tastefully, and I'm definitely excited to see what you're able to do with the next collections that you come out with. So definitely excited that that's one of your goals for the clothing line.
I think that's a really cool point that you brought up. I never planned for it to be tacky or anything, and I don't think it will ever be like that. And here's why. It's because I'm literally looking and interacting with the species and seeing what it looks like, and I'm just pulling inspiration from it. So it's always going to be very organic and very natural. It's never going to be like crazy colors everywhere, colors that don't represent the species.
Right.
I think it's always going to be pretty fluid and natural looking, because at the end of the day, wildlife is very beautiful. So
yeah. And we both are wearing the elephant collection.
Yes.
And I think that to the naked eye, I don't think that people would know that this is the skin of an elephant. I think that they're just, in everyone's mind, it's just gray.
It looks like a leopard print.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was funny, because I knew I was doing the rhino print, and rhino is a very gray, white, bluish coloring. An African elephant is very similar in the coloring. I actually looked at the Asian elephant and the uniqueness of the freckles that they get. And it turned out to look like a leopard print, but if you actually look closely at the elephant print, it has a lot of dimension. So there's a lot of peach tones in it. And yeah, I mean, it's literally directly inspired from the Asian elephant freckles. And I do think it's funny, because a lot of people have been it looks like a leopard print, but kind of different from that.
Right. Yeah,
I
think
talking point.
It for sure is a talking point. Yeah.
And then you say, we need to save them, and then hopefully
stop writing them.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm super excited about this. This is my first time wearing it, but can't wait to wear it and be able to talk about it. Because it's definitely very special. So for everyone listening, how can we all find AWEAR, and how can we shop your line?
So AWEAR has an Instagram. It's We Are AWEAR, and AWEAR is spelled AWEAR, because you're wearing it and it's bringing awareness. So it's kind of a play on the letters and words. So We Are AWEAR is the social handles for Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook. And then the website is also weareaware.com. That's the domain, and you can find everything amongst those platforms.
Awesome. Well, we did want to take this time to thank you so much. This has been so awesome. We feel so lucky and grateful, and we've learned so much with all of the things that we were hoping to learn with this particular episode, and with Tuaz Talks in general. This is definitely the blueprint and the most ideal way that we could introduce this segment onto our podcast. So thank you so much. And again, Steph can be found, or Steph and her line can be found at We Are AWEAR, AWEAR, on all platforms.
Yep, that's it. Thank you so much for having me out. And this has been a blast. And I'm glad you guys learned a lot, because honestly, Gryffin's life is pretty interesting, and I love to talk and brag about him. And then I love talking about AWEAR too. So I really appreciate you guys having me out here.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I feel more inspired after that.
For sure. Definitely more inspired after this.
Yeah.